Over the last 60 years, Pakistan and other developing countries have followed many prescriptions. Policies in the past have been based on planning and control, nationalization, industrial strategies, and the Washington Consensus. Billions of dollars in aid have been consumed, and yet poverty remains endemic. Internationally, researchers have been working hard on these issues. From this research, we have learned that weak, missing, or perverse institutions lie at the heart of underdevelopment. The concept of governance is not new. Ever since humans formed their first settlements, they have struggled with how best to organize their security and well-being. Simply put, governance refers to the organizational arrangements that underpin the functioning of markets and society. Good governance, according to Locke, consists of a government which embraces the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. There is consensus on the role of government to provide security and freedom to its people. Free and secure people are innovative and productive. Such individuals trade and cooperate, and these efforts lead to markets. Production, innovation, exchange of ideas, and fostering of human relations all takes place within the market space.
And I would urge all our people, our children, to study the Enlightenment philosophers. The Enlightenment philosophers said very clearly, and I think this theme comes down even today through people like Milton Friedman, through many other philosophers, that we need to make sure that our government does what government is supposed to do. Provide us with security, law and order, justice, and make sure that the markets are working well. But the markets are people-to-people transactions. When you and I interact, that's the market. When I go and buy food from a store, that's the market. The government doesn't tell me what food to buy or the store what food to make.
Adam Smith, the father of economics, said, "It is the natural propensity of humans to truck and barter." But this truck and barter happens in the context of societal arrangements which make this exchange secure. At its very basic, exchange requires property rights and the rules for contracting and payment. In other words, like in all human transactions, exchange requires rules of the game. Government determines these rules of the game and enforces them. A good legal framework and a speedy, efficient judiciary provides the enabling environment for market and private sector development. A quality watchdog regulatory structure could also help the market develop. However, too often, the regulatory structure ends up stifling the market. Government regulation is required if there is market failure. But experience has shown that there are possibilities of government failure. Economic research has shown that development follows good governance based on the principle of limited and efficient governments. To the size of the state there is a limit, as there is to plants, animals, and implements, for none of these retain their facility when they are too large. Within the context of Pakistan, there is a need to reassess the role of the government. While there is agreement that the government is an important actor of governance, it is the magnitude of the government that is at debate.
All over the world, the government role has been redefined because in an economy, in a modern economy, there are 4 roles that governments were traditionally performing: ownership, regulation, policy making, and management. And what is really increasingly being adopted is a model in which the government performs the role of policy making. while they are independent regulators. When I was the finance minister in Sindh, I discovered, for example, that there were 27 Sindh government inspectors who dealt with a single factory in a year. So we tried to reduce that. Similarly, I discovered in looking at, let's say, the fisheries sector, that there were 33 government agencies involved in it. When I was the Minister for Privatization, I realized how important and how dominant and how intrusive the government was.
Public policy and regulation have increasingly become important government activities that shape society and institutions. To conduct good public policy and effective market regulation, the government machinery must be very efficient. In Pakistan, the civil service controls almost all areas of government activity. The role of the civil service is not just confined to implementation, but encompasses sensitive tasks such as policy formulation and adjudication. Therefore, it is very important how governments select their employees and, moreover, who within the society seeks to work for the government.
We have not modernized the civil service. We are still carrying a civil service from the colonial era without really modernizing it. They still live in colonial bungalows, they still sit in colonial offices, they still behave in colonial fashions. We must try and develop a modern bureaucracy that is capable of working on a modern, in the modern era. To do that, we must professionalize our service.
Since independence, the Pakistani civil service has more or less followed the British model. It is a rank-based system where generalists are preferred to specialists, and lifetime employment is provided to its incumbents. Despite over 20 years of public reformism, effective leadership, inspired management, and efficient service delivery remains restricted to islands of excellence. While the Pakistani civil service has seen numerous reform commissions, little has been achieved, not least because of the lack of domestic research and debate on this issue. But again, this is not surprising, since research has been a declining industry in Pakistan. We now have to feel responsible for our situation and answer questions. Why do public servants perform badly? Why do they behave poorly? Why corruption exists? And why is there a lack of efficiency in our public organizations? The answers may include because civil servants are paid poorly, because their incentives are perverse, and patronage rather than merit prevails. And also because structures, rules, and public pressure for accountability is inadequate. Given this response, bold reforms are urgently required. These include restructuring ministries, shutting down redundant ministries, introduction of a remuneration formula that rewards merit and not experience, restructuring pay scales to narrow the gap with the private sector, and training to further human capital. These first-generation questions focus on improving structures and rules